Hello there, my name is Zach Golden. Welcome to the next episode of Fan Film Reviews, where basically I'll be breaking down fan-produced Star Wars fan films. We'll be talking about the high points, the low points, what makes them great, what makes them not so great, and eventually we'll round up the scores to develop what I call the Rotten May Lou Run score. We'll be talking about the cinematography, directing, acting, editing, visual effects, soundtrack, makeup and costuming, sound design, location and set design, and the Star Wars factor, which is essentially encompassing the writing and how Star Wars their fan film is. Just a reminder, I do not have any kind of pedestal. I don't work for Rotten Tomatoes or any kind of reviewing company like that. I'm just a Star Wars fan who likes to talk about films. So today we're going to be watching a fan film called Odyssey, a Star Wars story. And this is one that I've seen a few times. It's very well put together. I had some people request that I watch and review this fan film, and I'm happy to do it because this is a great film, and I've never actually broken it down this deep before, so this will be exciting. And if there's any fan films that you guys want me to react or review to, let me know in the comments. And of course, subscribe and like and all that good stuff. All right, without further ado, let's watch this fan film.
When I look at you, I see what I used to be. I remember that feeling when I made my choice. You think you just joined a cause, but instead you became a soldier. And I know you're not sure if that's what you want. But by being here, you've already made a choice. You decided to be part of something bigger than yourself because you believed what they were doing was wrong. And you decided to take action.
I like the symbol on their uniforms. It's a lot more creative than just writing them off as rebel troopers. But this could be just some other rebel cell out there. All those contraptions are very well thought out.
Whether you like it or not, the decision you make will become who you are.
We found this in the home.
blaster doesn't make you a soldier. What you do with it does. Pretty soon, others are gonna depend on you to be that soldier.
It's gonna be okay, son. Look away. Look away!
When it's life
The music
or
is
death,
really good.
you will see the reality of this war.
It's gonna be okay.
But don't forget the future. Don't forget what we're fighting for.
Immediate evac! The compromise is Tower 3!
You're just one person who's part of a much bigger plan. You're part of a rebellion. I have made calls that have gotten people killed. But you don't have to. You're here because we believe you can do this. A victory would mean a lot to this system. More than you know.
Captain, we're approaching Anjek.
Soldier or not, you shouldn't be out there without this. Quinn, you have a purpose with us.
Chills.
Tower is North Beach, 12 clicks from drop site. Other squads have perimeter at South Beach. Get out of sight and await further orders.
Good luck. I'll be watching over.
Odyssey Squadron.
You're ready for drop. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good fan film. All right. I hear an organ. I think that might be our people downstairs. I'm recording here in the studio at my church. I work at West Bradenton Baptist, and so more often than not, you'll hear other things going on within the church grounds, which is a good thing. That means there's ministry taking place. All right, so let's talk about this fan film. It's a standout compared to most, and I say that because every time that I've seen this fan film, I get chills. I really do. It's very Star Wars. I didn't take any points off as far as the Star Wars aspect is concerned. It's very helpful. It's very it feels very Rogue One, and it just hits the marks where it needs to hit the marks. It's very dramatic, and yet it's very fun and adventurous all at the same time. There's light moments. There's just these intense, sad moments, and there's these hopeful it's very Star Wars. It's a good job, guys. Cinematography. I felt cinematography was on point. I liked the scenes where they were sitting around the campfire. They have the hologram up, and you can see the blue light off their faces. I loved the beach shots as they're running through the woods, and then they're fighting along the shoreline. That looks awesome. The shots of the stormtroopers, jumping down the trees and leaping over the logs. Some shots of that in slow-mo, and just looked really cool. Let me think. There was other shots I really enjoyed. The one with where the massive tower is turning towards them, and they're all thinking that it's hopeless, and then the turret at the last moment turns around and starts shooting at the Star Destroyers. That was very well executed. You could see the fear in their eyes, and then the hope as the gun starts shooting at the cruisers. So great job with the camera. This was very well executed. Directing was very good at the high points, and what I mean by that is There were a couple of moments where I felt the lead actor, the young white male, there were moments where I couldn't quite understand what he was feeling. Even though in the situation I was aware of what was happening and the nervousness behind that, I didn't feel the actor was integrated well enough into that moment. It just felt like he was almost separate at times. But beyond that, there was definitely a vision behind this fan film. It was very Saving Private Ryan. It felt it felt like a World War II movie from beginning to end. So there was a vision, there was an idea. The whole concept behind, the Odyssey of the Galactic Civil War is a concept that's been touched on many times, but I felt the director had like an exact idea of what he wanted to accomplish, and he did it. So great job. You did good. You got your message across, and you brought me to chills multiple times. After having seen this fan film multiple times, which says something about your work. With that said, in correlation with the directing, I felt there were moments where the acting could have been better. Like I said, the lead could have played into his role a little bit better, could have gotten deeper as far as his reactions were concerned. The supporting actors, I felt they did a fantastic job playing their part. And there are moments where, like, if it wasn't, their eyes being filled with fear, it was their moments of determination, like, we're gonna do this, where I felt like, okay, I got hyped watching them. And so there was some great accomplishments as far as the acting is concerned, but there were a couple of weak points where I felt like it could have been better. Editing. So one thing that I will continue to say in every single one of these videos is that if you notice the editing, that means it's a bad thing. Great editing means that you're watching this fan film and there's nothing that pulls you out of the story. There's nothing that jars you. There were 2 points that jarred me, and they both of those points were at the beginning and the end. So the first point that jarred me was the transition from the spaceship and the commander kind of going on his monologue, and then the immediate transition onto the beach. I had a moment where I was just like, whoa, there's a complete change in composition and color spectrum. And maybe that's just me and my eyes playing tricks on me, but it was a moment where I kind of had to, recollect where I was, because I wasn't sure, and I'm mostly speaking in reference to the first time that I watched it, and in the following viewings afterward. And every time it's this moment where I'm like, okay, they're gonna go from this spaceship to immediately being on the beach. We don't know what planet, we don't know what the planet looks like, we just know they go from space to the beach, just like that. And so it's a bit jarring to jump from that location to another so quickly. And the same thing happened with the ending, where you jump from the fight to being in space. And on top of that, you're time jumping, right? Because you've got the spaceship traveling through space. Then all of a sudden you have, boom, they're on their mission, about to fight the stormtroopers. And honestly, you when you're watching it at the beginning, you almost feel like the guy who's talking, the older guy, you almost feel like it's a flashback, right? Because he's speaking in these details, he's very specific about certain things. He's talking about how long he's been in this battle, and so you almost get this vibe that it's a flashback. And so that's kind of what you're assuming. And then towards the end of the film, when it jumps back to the hyperspace mission and you see him again, and then he's talking to the younger male actor, Then it's this moment where you're like, oh, okay, it wasn't a flashback. We're actually in real time, which is a great concept. But what I think is important is that you establish where characters are, so that when you're ready to give the plot twist that it wasn't a flashback after all, then you at least have recollection of where you are, so that you can skip from going, where am I, to when am I? Establishing shots are always key. So if they had thrown in maybe a VFX shot of the planet they're flying towards, or maybe some stock footage of a beach line that the ship swings in and pulls into, so that I could keep up with, or at least find a way to add to the idea that, is this a flashback or is it not a flashback? If so, what does the location have to support that theorizing, that questioning? So maybe get better with the establishing shots is my little nitpick, and that is something that the editing fell short on. Beyond that, there was no part where I felt like I was being pulled out of the story. And you see this happen a lot with action sequences. Sometimes they just pick the wrong angle. Sometimes they pull too wide when they should have gotten close and personal. And sometimes those cuts can just pull you right out of what's happening and be like, whoa, that was weird. But I didn't feel that. This was a perfectly executed fight scene. And so you have to applaud them for that. Not a whole lot of people can accomplish that feat, especially in fan films where you're mostly dealing with independent amateur artists. This guy knew what he was doing. He knew what he wanted to accomplish, and he hit those marks perfectly every single time. So, good job, guys. Visual effects. As far as the blasters are concerned, the blasters themselves, great job. However, there were a few areas where you would see the blaster hit the stormtroopers or hit the object, and you wouldn't see any kind of blaster mark on their armor. But then you'll see it on other blaster marks on the storm. Like, sometimes you'll see the blaster marks on the stormtroopers, and then other times you wouldn't. So continuity stuff that could have been a little bit better. So I took some points off for that. Beyond that, the Star Destroyers, the spaceships, the gun turret, all that stuff, very well done. I liked how you added that kind of layer of opacity, because in reality, if you're seeing something that's way off in the distance, it's not going to be perfectly clear. There's going to be like this film of opacity kind of a situation. And same goes for when it's like way up in the sky. So good job with those little details that most people probably wouldn't have even noticed. Soundtrack. Great job with the soundtrack. I want to know who did that. Let's see. Music by Jake Hull. Great job, Jake. You did a great job. It's not the best Star Wars soundtrack I've heard in a fan film, but it's definitely up there because it's very Star Wars. You hit me in the emotions right when I needed to, and it was the music that got me chills the majority of the time. Yes, the story got me there, but it was that crescendo. It was the percussions that just really pushed me over the edge and just got me, like you did a great job with the soundtrack. So good job, man. Makeup. Not a whole lot to say about makeup and costuming. It's just great overall. I like how you decided to go with something a little more creative as opposed to copying off of something that already existed. So I didn't take any points off at all whatsoever for makeup and costuming. I thought you did great. The sand on the face, the blood and the cuts, very well done. I was convinced the entire time. I loved how World War II, the rebel uniforms looked. So, yeah, good job. No points taken off for that. Sound design. Sound design was pretty much flawless. Trying to think. There were a few areas where I felt the sound mix was a bit off. Like I was hearing things that were taking place in two different locations. Like you had the soldiers, the rebel soldiers in the trees, and then you had the stormtroopers up on top of the fort. There were times where, based on what the cameras were doing, what the actors were doing, I would hear blaster shots from the left, and I would hear blaster shots from the right, and they almost sounded like they were taking place in the same spot. And you want to have that separation going from the right and to the left. And maybe that was just me not hearing things right, but I took like half a point off for that because it was something that came to mind. Beyond that, I loved the detail that you put into all the blaster sounds, because each blaster has a specific blasting sound. And you guys kept note of that, and you incorporated that into the weapons that each soldier was using. So great detail, great job with that stuff. So yeah, good job with sound design. Location and set design. Oftentimes you don't see the beach in fan films, and so I loved getting to see that the shoreline. I loved seeing the trees and the fallen branches and all that stuff, and getting to see the jungle, and then taking advantage of that that structure in the woods. I don't even know what that was, and honestly, the fact that I can't tell what it is tells me that, for all I know, you guys built that set. And if you did, then great job, because it is very convincing. It looks legit. That little computer console that the guy was hacking into, so intricate and so detailed. I was very impressed. I bought every minute of it. There's not a single moment where I was like, whoa, that's a little weird. However, here's what I will say. The spaceship had a few shots where I'm looking at the walls, I'm looking at the doors and the structures, and it looks too stable. Like, like you're watching the Falcon fly in Star Wars, or you're watching other spaceships, and there's kind of like a shuddering, swaying kind of a vibe where the camera's handheld, and I didn't see that in these spaceships. It felt very stationary, it felt very secure and stable, and I wasn't convinced that they were in a spaceship. It almost looked like they were on train tracks going through space. So, if they went handheld, or just added some shutters, especially when they're getting close to the planet or pulling out of hyperspace, that's when you really want to start getting that shaking sensation. Especially if you're going for that World War II vibe. They're flying the helicopters in, or they got those boats full of soldiers. As they get closer to their spot, it's going to get even more like intense and shaky. Yeah, maybe beyond that, the spaceship could have used a little bit of work, but everything else was perfect. And maybe the camera work could have been better as far as what's taking place inside the spaceship. But beyond that, good job. Next up, we've got the Star Wars factor, which I kind of covered earlier. But again, this was a very Star Wars story. It was hopeful, it was inspirational, it was dramatic, it was fun, it was adventurous, and all those things are the things that we should feel when we watch Star Wars. So, good job, guys. You know your craft. I'm looking for the name of the director, and all I see is an email in the description. So, anyway, if you're watching, good job. You know your craft, you know Star Wars, and that's unfortunately something you don't get to see very often. Maybe this is him. Mark Alex Vogt. I'm going to say Vogt. Mark, you did a good job. Great Star Wars story. Keep it up. I want to see more. That's all the notes I have. I'm going to add up these numbers, and we're going to deliver the final word on what the Rotten Melu Run score is here in a little bit. All right, folks, the results are in. Odyssey, a Star Wars story, walks away with a Rotten Melu Run score of 89%. Fantastic job, guys. Great fan film. I expect more from you guys. I want more from you guys. Mark, you did an excellent job. You're a great writer. Keep it up. I want to see you do some kind of feature film. I want it. Yeah, keep me updated on all your stuff. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you have a fan film that you want me to watch and review, please let me know in the comments. And that's all I've got for you today. May the Force be with you, always.